Welcome to the Thunder Buddies podcast. I am Joe Mussatto, joined by our all-star Thunder beat writer Joel Lorenzi. Joel, what's up, man?
That was a little much. I feel like we in
You like that?
WWE. No, not really. You played me up a little too much. You're the all star, man.
Well, Joel, it's August. Nothing's happening in the NBA, but we are here to talk about the schedule because the schedule was released recently. The Thunder opens play October 24th. We're like 2 months away at Denver on TNT. Then they go to Chicago. Home opener Sunday, October 27th versus the Atlanta Hawks. Joel, you've written a lot about the schedule. You kind of broke it down. You picked out some of your favorite games. Just kind of what are your initial kind of top line thoughts from the schedule release?
Yeah. I think obviously everybody's gonna look at the 16 back to backs and say, well, the league hates the Thunder. Well, the league hates like 6 or 7 teams this year because that's just the way the schedule fell out. And then they're up from 14 back to backs, and I think there's a good chunk of teams like the middle now is 14 back to backs in the league. I think the least amount of back to backs is probably like 13. So it's all teams have their share of back to backs. I think March is probably the craziest month for the Thunder, just considering the 16 games, the teams they play. They play Memphis a couple times, Boston's in there, Denver's same was in there a couple times, and then I think everybody wants to talk about the rise in national TV games.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, 25. If you have stock in NBA TV, if you care at all for NBA TV, that's 25. If you don't care much for NBA TV, that's 15. And then everybody wants to talk too about, all the rivalry games. And, among non rivals, the Josh Giddey return game. I mean, they played Josh Giddey on the road as soon as the second game of the season, but I don't think the return game is till March. So,
Yeah, the second game of the season at Chicago, that was the Thunder's opener last year, as you might remember, Joel, because you Chicago native who just
you
missed
love to
the
remind
Thunder's
me. Yeah.
game in Chicago, but now you'll make your long-awaited return to the United Center. Uh, that's kind of an interesting opening road trip, just a two-game trip at Denver at Chicago. It is a little bit strange. Um, but I mean, obviously, there's going to be excitement around the home opener, October 27th. Uh, but the first big game I'm circling is October 30th because it's when the Spurs come to town. It's on ESPN. We get Wemby Chet, which has become a thing. That's on my that's near the top of my list. Is I know it's early in the season, but just as far as most anticipated games, I think that'll be a tough ticket to get.
Yeah, no doubt. And the NBA, for what it's worth, is really pushing that matchup. I mean, a couple of those matchups are on national TV, as well as like the Lakers matchups. Which I mean, in terms of basketball, I feel like a basketball head. I don't know that that's the most thrilling or that's the most storied matchup, but like the Lakers gave them some trouble last year, and then the Lakers just get national TV games. Like that's just what the Lakers are. So the way that the Thunder's national TV games are like prioritized is kind of funny. I think the of the games that are not NBA TV, they only have like 3 games at home. So they'll some of these games are on the road, including a couple of the Spurs games, which is interesting, just considering the dynamic of both teams. But no, the Spurs are part of some fun national T games with the Thunder, and that's just you know what it is. I mean, even if Chet's gonna downplay it, even if Vic doesn't care to hear about Chet, they're indifferent toward each other as competitors. The league is gonna push that. So
But I mean, that's part of it. Them being indifferent toward each other. It's easy to just say, yeah, he's a great player, but like they clearly don't like talking about each other, which kind of like heightens the rivalry. And it's fun. The Thunder needs a rival. We talked about this last year during the playoffs, but Dallas makes the most sense. Um, but San Antonio is going to be up there as well. Um, this is old news because the Christmas Day slate came out well before the full schedule, but we haven't really talked about it on this podcast. I am in the minority. I'm thankful that the Thunder doesn't have a Christmas Day game. That means we don't have to work. We can just sit at home and watch basketball. But I get that it's like a point of pride, like, it's an honor to be played to play on Christmas. I honestly think that if you put True Serum in the players and organization and staff and arena workers, people are probably glad they're not playing on Christmas.
Yeah, I'd agree. And while it's a point of pride, um, I mean, it couldn't be more obvious why the Thunder isn't playing on Christmas. So I think at some point, like people just got to keep it real with themselves. While the Thunder is still going to be one of the best teams in basketball, like San Antonio playing in MSG on Christmas, which is feels like in basketball, framing the most random matchup ever. Like we know why that's happening. Like
Yeah.
like Victor Wembanyama and the Wembanyettes got to go play on Broadway, right? Like that's what it is. That's you look down the line at the Christmas slate and it's straight box office. And not to say the Thunder wouldn't be. I wrote about the couple of matchups the Thunder could have played in there. Um, but that's just what it is, and that matchup specifically makes it obvious. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, people should maybe feel slighted. They should be reciting Presti's, silver spoon speech, but like it makes sense from a league standpoint, I guess, and business wise, like it's pretty obvious why it happened. So I don't know. I don't think people will have to argue this for much longer, but I don't think they should be so sad. I think the bigger I mean, Denver is a good opening matchup, but I thought it like I argued for the NBA more on the NBA's behalf more before I saw the opening day matchup. I thought for sure the Thunder and Dallas made sense, and that's why they weren't playing each other on Christmas, whatever. So I'm defending them a little less now, but it's obvious why they're not playing on Christmas. So
Yeah, I'm looking here. Are any of the Dallas matchups even on national TV?
maybe one,
Yeah, maybe one. I might be missing one here, but um
which
anyway,
I guess people in Oklahoma City. I mean, if you watched that series last year, people who did are prioritizing that as a rivalry more than the rest of the league. I can't speak from an outsider standpoint. It feels like Dallas is OKC's biggest rival today. That's who gave Dallas the most trouble en route to the finals. I don't know. It feels like even those two are probably the leading contenders in the West right now. If you had to pick a couple teams, like I don't know, but it doesn't seem like league wide, league offices are they're putting as much stock in that matchup as we are here.
yeah, no, I mean you're right about that. So Thunder host the Mavs Sunday, November 17th. Then January 17th they go at Dallas, then they turn around the week after that, play Dallas at home. OKC and Dallas only play 3 times. Only one of those games in Dallas, and none of the three are on national TV. So, heck, maybe one of those will get slotted the week of or whatever.
And
Some
and, and maybe maybe they get maybe they add a game during the makeup week for the NBA
Yeah,
Cup. Like maybe that's because I think they try to I don't know all the variables there, but I think they try to factor in proximity and stuff like that. Like I think the Thunder's options last year included like Memphis and Houston and stuff like that. So I think proximity matters when trying to reschedule.
you a big New Year's Eve guy?
Working on New Year's Eve, no, I don't really care for it because I'm turning my story in at like 1 a.m. So I'm they're doing a countdown in the media room, like, and it's me by myself. So no, I'm not a big New Year's Eve guy. Are you?
No, not a big New Year's Eve guy. But it's just weird because like we've written about this before, but it's tradition around here. Oklahoma City every year hosts a New Year's Eve game. This year's no different. Uh, December 31st versus Minnesota, and I bring that up not only for the holiday reason of that, but you mentioned this before we got on here. So they played the Timberwolves New Year's Eve, then they
Mhm.
play them 3 times within an 11-day span in February. February 13th at Minnesota, February 23rd at Minnesota, February 24th home against Minnesota. So that's a back-to-back, one in Minnesota, one in OKC. That could be a very important series as far as the standings go out west, and we're going to see that matchup 3 times within a 4-game span.
Yeah, no, it will be, and if we're talking like injuries and stuff like that, like that's going to matter in an 11-day span. There are a lot of variables working there that lead me to believe. I don't know how much thought was put into that span or what all the variables that go into scheduling. It's bad for the leading West Division that's going to have 3 of the probably the top 4 teams in the whole conference. It's bad for the way that unfolds, but no, you're right, and it's interesting. It's kind of like eerily similar to the way the Warriors series was scheduled last year. But even that, I don't think that was as crammed as this. I mean, we're talking 3 games in 11 days, and the way I think 2 of them are a back-to-back, part of a back-to-back. I think, and it's not like same place back-to-back. It's like
it's a road home back-to-back.
Yeah, so it's an interesting series for sure, and all told, all the games get played within. I don't know. I mean, that's the last day of the calendar year is the first matchup. That's I don't know. That's less than 2 months, right?
Yeah, all within 2 months.
So and that's not as far as understanding where these teams are from beginning of the season to end. That's not the greatest sample of data either in terms of how they might look. And I imagine those teams will probably, at least in Minnesota's case, Minnesota could look different after the deadline, and so you're not getting a great sample of data. Kind of similar. I thought the Thunder got 1 game against the Mavs. That the actual Mavs team that stood a chance in the playoffs with Gafford, and that was like their top 2 worst loss of the season. They got blown out by like 35 last year, but they had 1 game of data like that. Now they might not have any game of data against the post deadline Timberwolves. So
yeah, that is interesting. Other thoughts? I'm looking at the stretch between November 21st and December 29th. So that's more than a month span. The Thunder has 2 home games. So you're gonna 3 home games. So they 2 home games. December 3rd versus Utah, December 23rd versus Washington. So for the last several days of November and all of December up until December 29th, the Thunder's going to be on the road. So pack your bags, Joel.
I always have them packed. And by the way, before we move on, let me retract. Let me rephrase what I was saying about Minnesota. They'll obviously play them after the trade deadline, but like those guys will be new there. They won't like that won't be sufficient data. I don't think that's what I was trying to say. So
here's a 4-game stretch for you. At Toronto, you'll have fun up north. 2 days later at New Orleans. Fantastic culinary city.
Yeah.
Then this is sorry. I'm reading this break in the schedule there, but Orlando after that, and then Miami after that. I know you're a big Miami guy.
That's the makeup games you're kind of reading, right?
That's the makeup games.
Right.
I'm still getting used to this new schedule.
Right. Those could be at home. We don't know, but if not, I mean, they're looking at they could be looking at what is that 5 out of 6 games on the road. If it's all road, 6 straight road games. I mean, what's the damage there? That's Orlando, and then who's after
that? After Orlando?
Yeah.
Miami?
Right. Okay. Which is an interesting stretch.
Yeah. Everyone always wants to see LeBron. You'll get 2 chances within a 3-day span in late April at the end of the season. The Lakers are going to be here for several days. April 6th and April 8th. It's one of those baseball series. So hopefully fans will see LeBron in one of those 2 games. And everyone always likes to see the Lakers.
They caught him last year.
Yeah.
They caught him last year. And for what it's worth, as a beat writer, I don't give a damn about the Lakers coming here. You know what I want? I want an off day in LA myself. I want to go watch those guys out there and have an off day in between games. I don't want a back to back Clippers Lakers, the Lakers Lakers. I want an off day out there. And you know what? I care about more than any of that. I just want to see the Clippers new arena. I want to see the
Yeah.
Intuit Dome. It looks insane. It looks like the best arena in sports right now. So at least from afar. So I can't wait to see that.
Well, that's going to be pretty early on, Saturday, November 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now that's on the second night of a back-to-back. They're at Portland November 1st, then at the Clippers November 2nd. You've never been to Portland's arena either, so Joel, you can knock off two new arenas if you go on that back-to-back.
Yeah, and I'm still never had an off day in LA, so that the trend continues.
Yeah. Yeah, everyone listening feels so sorry for you, Joel.
They should. LA is a great city, but I mean, I only know so well about that because I don't have off days there. So
Let's see. Anything else? What else? I mean, they closed the season at New Orleans, which is like the most forgotten playoff series ever, but
yeah,
rematch there. And that's a 2:30 game. They all those games on the last game of the season are either at noon or 2:30. But you mentioned that there are what, a few other kind of
yeah,
midday games.
they have 5 afternoon games. I think one of them especially is of relevance, and that's one of the Denver matchups in March. It's the first day, can't say night, first day of a back to back
Hmm.
at noon. It's the earliest game they'll play, and then they'll go turn around and play the very next day at a regular 7 p.m. tip. So that's among one of the more interesting games to watch. I don't think I included it in my story that I wrote last week just because you want to prioritize matchups and other storylines, but of the games that could change the playoff picture, like how those teams are feeling entering that. It's an interesting back to back. We know the Thunder's reputation. Their afternoon games, there's a lot of variables working against the Thunder there potentially. So it's just an interesting game to watch. March 9th at noon. They play Boston in the afternoon game in OKC, which is interesting. And then it's just funny because the Boston series they only played them twice. Obviously, one is the afternoon game, which people know the afternoon curse, and then the other
Hmm.
one is I don't think it's ABC. I think it's ESPN, but it's a pretty. It'll be a very
ESPN.
widely watched game. Yeah, it'll be a widely watched game, and those are the only two chances we have to see what some believe to be, maybe an eventual finals matchup. I don't know about this year, but an eventual, the two favorites for their respective conferences at least this year. And then the other ones are kind of relevant as far as afternoon game goes. You got one at Portland, against the Lakers in April, which you don't know what you're going to get from that. It's the last 2 weeks of the season, and then at New Orleans, like you mentioned, which is probably going to be as forgettable as the playoff series. So
Yeah, but what is cool about that is three of those afternoon games we talked about in Oklahoma City, uh, against marquee opponents. I mean, Boston, Denver, and the Lakers.
but
So
yeah, it's not like last year. I think one of those was Detroit, and they lost that game. So
yeah,
they
that
can
was at
avoid something
Detroit,
like that.
right?
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not wishing anything on them, but they have Portland seems to be just about as bad as maybe not just as bad, but Portland's in a similar boat to Detroit last year, and that's the one road. Well, no, that's one of the two road games of the afternoon game they play. So that's all. I'm just throwing the information out there. That's all I'm saying. So
What else, Joel? Did we cover it? We got it.
uh, we hardly talked about Josh Giddey. That's important, right?
Yeah, you're big on the Giddy return game.
Well, I think it's pretty important that the one guy that got shoved out of the lineup from a year ago. Obviously, he has different expectations than he had here, so it'll just be interesting to watch. I think it'll be interesting to see more than anything how Mark Daigneault chooses to defend Giddy, like what tactics he uses to
Yeah.
defend Giddy as an opposing coach. I mean, we saw all the things they tried to use him for on offense to make him fit into the role he had. As that evolved, Like what is he gonna? How is he gonna scheme against the guy he tried so hard to fit in? Like that's what I want to see more than anything. Is he gonna park Isaiah Hartenstein underneath the rim?
That could get
Like
kind
that's
of
what I'm looking forward
awkward.
to. It'll be very awkward. But if Giddey's who everyone thinks he is, I mean I'm among those who think he can be more than fine in Chicago. Then that he should be out there. He'll be on the ball. He'll be in more pick and rolls. But even then, it'll be interesting to see who they match up with him. They have their choice of perimeter defenders. They have their choice of guys who could bother him. They could put Dub on him. They could put Caruso on him. They could put whoever on him. It's not like the Bulls have top to bottom this army of on ball threats. They'll be in the capture the flag sweepstakes. I hope they win it. Honestly, I think the Bulls need that for relevancy in this league. If they don't get Cooper Flag, I'd be worried about the way they're trending. But I say all that to say that it'll just be interesting to see the way the Thunder game plans against him. All the emotions there. There's still guys that say that they miss him. Obviously, they built the bond with him.
Hmm.
They'll feel like a part of the team is missing, but I don't know how long or how much they'll miss him when they see Caruso sliding alongside them and Isaiah Hartenstein defending the rim when Chet's not in the game. I imagine it'll be easier than most times to maybe forget about Giddey. So
Yeah, and I expect Giddey will get a pretty warm embrace from the fan base. And I know a lot of I don't know how many people come to the games who actually turned on him, but a lot of people on Twitter certainly did. But with the way
right,
Josh handled things and handled his exit and like taking the high road on the way out before like we even knew he was going to be traded, I think he, is going to be applauded.
yeah. I mean, for what it's worth, even when there were no answers on his off court issues, the applause never really
No,
dissipated, and so yeah, I think he'll be well received. Whatever that's worth. So yeah, I don't think he'll have to worry about that. I think it'll be an interesting night. But also, like you're right about the Twitter stuff. But also, we have to remember that Twitter is not the real world. It's only
not real life.
it's only such a big faction of what we do. So I think he will be well received. I think that's just a Thunder thing anyway. I mean, like Keontae Johnson isn't a Thunder anymore, and the response he got yesterday on Twitter was like if he played here 3 years, people were like, "Oh, we wanted to see what he could be." Which, by the way, is that the quickest Presti has maybe moved on from a draft pick? That was 2023 draft.
Yeah, I don't. It's a good question. I mean, it's got to be up there. I can't say for sure. Um, but they're proud of the the second rounders they draft and those two-way guys and wanting to convert them to standard deals. I mean, he barely got any playing time last year. Of course, that it's like giving guys a deep look as a two-way guy when you're a bad team is a lot easier than doing it now. So, didn't really surprise me, but yeah, it was a it was a short era for Keontae Johnson in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, Charlotte is pretty proud of the Thunder's second rounders and whatever weird picks and pickups they have too, because they keep plucking everybody, right? They grab Poku, they grab Trey Mann, they grab Micic. Like the pipeline is real. Like
Yep.
clearly they're picking up the scraps here. So
Who's next?
this Mac making a Charlotte return.
Yeah.
We know Gordon can't make the Charlotte return. He gave that up for he's a movie guy now. He's a movie producer now.
Yeah, Gordon.
What
I
a,
would just like to say I won our Gordon and Hayward debates. I don't even know if we had any on here, but I won them.
I don't know that I ever had a very firm stance on Gordon Hayward, the Thunder. I always, you know what, man? I always, bro, my stance was about as firm as anybody else who thought that he could come in and contribute. Nobody thought he was going to be a starter or play starter minutes. He. You know
Hey,
what,
you know
Joe? Yeah,
what?
you won. You won because you were
It
always down on him, Joe. You won.
no, I'll tell you who won. Sam Presti won because without that trade, we 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 looked at it so much from a basketball standpoint with what Hayward could give. Um, but just from a financial standpoint, it opened up the flexibility for them to ultimately bring in Isaiah Hartenstein. And,
Mhm.
that's easy to say with hindsight because Hartenstein did still have to choose to come here. But if you add his name as a ripple of that trade, it looks awfully good. So Isaiah Hartenstein, we'll see. It's always fun. I love going to Madison Square Garden. Uh, I assume that'll be a neat return game for him as well because he really made a name for himself there last year.
Yeah, and he actually liked it there. He seemed to be torn
Yeah.
over it, but the bag talks, and
Yeah.
and if these two teams are in similar levels of contention, and the bag is really doing the talking. So
We talk about that Giddey return game, March 31st. Just makes me think it's August 21st right now. That's 7 months away.
it'll be so highly anticipated for the
It'll
seven
be
months. I
so
mean,
highly. We're gonna count
well,
down the days.
oh my gosh, we're steaming over the 7 months it's gonna take to see
Yeah,
Josh
this
Giddey
is.
back in OKC.
I mean, it's late August. This is the slowest month on the NBA calendar,
Is it?
but
I couldn't tell.
but at least the NBA gave us a calendar to talk about. See what I did there with schedule? Well, schedule action.
What do you
Um,
work for the league office? Jesus, bro.
but I don't even know what's next. What are we going to talk about next? What are you working on? Tell the people.
Um, I have a big profile that's coming along slowly but surely. A profile on a younger player, which that really nailed it
Wow.
down on his team.
Yeah. All right. Can't
So that's
connect
all.
the dots on that one.
Right. That's all I want to say right now, though. But
Okay.
a bigger story. Hopefully, a few bigger stories by the time we actually get close to the opener and get through media day and training camp and stuff. So hopefully, a couple big profiles.
Terrific. Well, everyone follow Joel's work, follow our work at the Oklahoman, and thanks as always for listening to the Thunder Buddies podcast, and we'll be back with you next time.